They're live on YouTube.
We said to, well. See, well, we'll go around the room. Jennifer's here. Here. Kevin's here. Let me see chair. I am here. We have a quorum and the meeting is called order at 8 o'clock. Saturday. We have a guest here.
I'm Tara Hoey from the Town Gardeners Community Preservation Advisory Board.
Okay. Karen said you'd be coming. I think what we'll do is we have a parcel prioritization. Basically, our plan, community preservation plan, gives scores to parcels that we, and basically to get at least a score of 1, you
Out of 100?
out of a lot, like 10, something like that.
Okay. Oh, 30.
That's 30. You could qualify for funding. At least eligible.
Okay.
So of all those parcels, for the record, Eli's here. We wanted to identify within this larger list of parcels, a smaller list. When people apply, we see that tax ID number. That's on our special list. So we're hoping you could stay here for the parcel prioritization, talk about your experience in Gardner.
Okay.
She was also gonna just Gardner does things a little differently, so part of the original plan for here was to talk about how they went about
Okay.
deciding on how to do that. What they do and how they decide.
Okay. Right. There are no modifications to the agenda. This will be modified when we on the floor. Did everyone get a chance to read the minutes? Changes? You want new minutes, the June 2025 minutes? No?
I was
You
just
were sitting for a
so I have to leave whatever.
All right, I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Jen, seconded, so I'll go around the room. Raise your hand if you're in favor of adopting the minutes. Any
You
no's?
can vote yes even though you weren't here,
Oh.
or you can choose to abstain.
I thought I had to
You
abstain.
don't have to abstain, you can choose.
Sure, yes.
So it's unanimous, no no's, no abstentions. If you read them and you understand them,
Yes.
you can vote.
Okay.
Okay. So it's unanimous. Okay. The real estate transfer tax.
Okay, so everyone should have a copy of this. I don't have the copy, so. Move on. We'll start with the blue side. So, since we haven't met since June, there are 2 months reflected here. So you can see the total sales for July were 15,214,617. The total sales for August were 14,864,02. July, there were 44 transfers. In August, there were 50. In July, there were 33 exemptions, and in August, there were 36. In July, there were 11 real estate transfer tax transactions paid. In August, there were 14. The percentage of transactions broke down to be 25% and 28%, respectively, each month. The average transaction was much higher in July, $6,060.94, and lower in August, $2,411.12. So in July, the total real estate transfer tax amount that we brought in, not including interest, was $66,662.29, highest of any month yet. And in August, we brought in $33,755. You can see the county interest reflected at 128 and 72 cents, respectively. I also was able to get the city interest, so this now will modify some of the previous months' data that I shared because now there's slight amount of city interest that was added in. So in July, we got $6.74 interest, August, $10.84. So the total revenue for July was $66,670.31. The total revenue in August was $33,755.72, with a total current real estate transfer tax revenue of $217,210.31. If you look at the other side of the chart, you'll just notice the trending. Since we're only looking at 1 year, we have nothing to compare it to, but it's shocking to me that July is so high, but maybe not. Maybe that's when people buy homes or whatever. So I'll just also note with the actual information from the county, I did review, and I'll just pass this around, but I did review all of the transfers, and there was no one that was paying an amount more than $425,000 that did not pay the tax. So there's no exemptions this month. Or less.
Any discussion? Maybe you come back this towards the end, and then we talk about the numbers. That way we can get to parcel prioritization.
Did we want to Tara talk first?
There was no one to ask. No
I
one. You want to talk?
I responded. Then, okay,
I think we should hear from Sarah.
yeah, I responded when you sent that out that Tara was going to be speaking.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe we do the parcel prioritizations. You see it, and then you talk about either gardener experience, or do you need to be somewhere?
I can stay for the whole meeting.
Okay, all right,
Listen, because we've been putting off a parcel prioritization.
right. Which is the last time we had Tara speak first, so
Oh,
that's all.
okay.
Okay,
She can kind of see where we're at.
yes,
That's
okay.
So we want to
No.
lead the talk about the
Oh,
maps here.
Sure. So the two maps that we had discussed, having redone, and I was thinking last night, speakers and comments all think that there were a couple of parcels that should have tried to, or should have excluded from the whole taking of mini maps. Like, the one, that has the yellow on it is the parcels that were adjacent to protected lands, and then the ones with the pink on it is the parcels that were not within a quarter mile of protected lands. So basically, we've got the concept of continuity on one and the concept of kind of a protected land deserts on the other. So I was realizing we've never really discussed exclusions of certain properties. So like the cemetery, the golf course, CSX, we didn't discuss whether or not we should exclude those because they're already kind of like CSX is going to be there for forever as far as we know so far. You know, the cemetery.
I'll just make a note,
Yeah.
that caveats your last comment that CSX will be there forever.
Well, that's why I said more.
Well,
as far as we know.
I just like to bring some color to why we might not exclude them. The city is literally currently in negotiations with CSX to take some property that will be
Okay.
possibly turning into a park.
Okay,
So I would say we should assume nothing will be anything in perpetuity.
okay,
Even a park that's considered parkland could go through parkland alienation process and be like,
okay. So we'll leave them on there for now. I mean, and things like cemeteries are considered paid spaces when it comes to that kind of concept anyways, so that probably should be just added to the green space for now, but again, it could. I don't know how, like, yeah,
And there's a map here, not within a quarter mile of protected lands. So these are the pink areas,
mhm.
and they signify basically the best areas for parks. Or
No, they signify, well, we were talking last time about two different concepts, right? One was continuity of protected lands. So for connectivity for the animals and the green space. Now, the other big concept we were talking about is properties that were not within a quarter mile of a park in order to see where there are park deserts. So protected land deserts, meaning there's nothing protected within a quarter mile of that parcel. Right, so those are the two concepts that we were discussing last time. So that means that somebody in this area of heavy pink might actually want to have some parkland because it's easier to walk to, it's closer by.
Okay,
Um,
do we know, looking at this, like if there's a particular property, you have the address or something?
so, yeah, looking at the map, no, but that's why I brought my laptop, because I can click on any of them and then the information pops up.
Yeah, I didn't print out the parcel sheets.
This was like,
A lot of it,
yeah, this one was,
but I can bring it up on the screen.
there was, I think it was the, not within a quarter mile was like
Yeah.
1,000 records.
Yeah,
or
I'll
something.
stop and do that. But if there's something in particular, one of us can, I can certainly hold up on screen or on my screen.
I did print out.
And,
Yeah.
so I need,
Jason, the public lands and,
oh, you printed them out?
yeah,
I like it. First, I need to restart the computer. My computer likes to sometimes forget it exists.
because I don't know, like along Albany Avenue, you have an area, I don't know where we would find land to protect, but
Right, and it's not necessarily that, you know, we're going to find something, it was more of a, it was more of, we were wondering where some good areas would be, right? So they might just be, they're all houses
yeah,
and businesses along there, so we might not find anything.
Oh, so sorry, can I just have a clarification on this? Sorry, can I ask a question?
sure.
Okay. The pink, which is identified as tax parcels not within a quarter mile of protected land. Their score isn't overlaid over it, correct?
Correct.
So I wonder,
Some of those might be zeros.
some of those might be zeros, so to help with the prioritization, maybe like a hatch.
Yeah.
But the color of the prioritization hatched on top of the pink would help us know like, oh, well, yes, that entire area off of Albany Avenue is pink, but they all have scores of 0.
I mean, I could do that. I could also just like turn off all the other layers and just have the protected lands layered as these prioritization.
Right, yep, you can do that, Jill.
Um,
I mean, or that, yes.
so,
And then we could have, I mean, there's value in this map as well, is that not only we're able to see the pink versus the rest of the unit of the universe of options, but if we wanted to just focus on parcels not within a quarter mile and then see how they're ranked, that would be why you would turn off the other one. So that would be another map. Thanks for putting me downstairs, great. But shy of having that information, right now, all the pink is been given equal weight in our brain.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine, so.
I mean, we could look at a previous map, I guess. Suppose I probably have a previous map, but that might be complicated.
This is good, I think we'll work out more criteria.
And actually, but this would have to, did this have the scores in it?
it should have.
No, I didn't print out the whole spreadsheet, just the address,
Okay.
yeah. So basically, it's the areas that are, just looking at this map here. Because I see how this is gonna go.
Oh, yeah, you can compare it to the other one.
Yeah.
Right, it just compares the other maps.
Areas,
That's the one.
so basically, I guess when we look at this again, at some point, basically you'll take the areas that are coded in pink. And you'll identify those parcels that have a score greater than 1 or higher.
Yeah.
And you have the property class code as well.
It should be whatever's in the overall spreadsheet. Let me see, attribute table, all the stuff that comes from
What is-
Ulster County Parcel Viewer should be in there.
What does property class code mean?
The tax assessor will give a property class code indicating if it's a single family home, if it's vacant, if it's commercial property. And that can give us insights into what really is eligible, because it's a single family home. It's just-
Yeah, it is.
Unless it's currently a vacant property, even though it's a single family home. Like if it's zoned for single family home, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's still a single family home on it.
So yeah, column L has that, but you would have to know, do you know what the class codes all are?
I'm familiar with them. A vacant property, you have to dig down deeper to see if there's a structure on it. Because they, so, but at least you're, and that would be going through the tax assessment.
I'm trying to recall if this board has created, I'm trying to think higher level of this process. So has this board sat down and said like, this is how we want to prioritize, our number one priority is X, our second is this, our third is this, or is that what this?
This is what it is. This is what we're getting at. We're trying to figure out parcels. So when people start applying and they write in the tax ID, and then we see that tax ID, we know right off the bat, that's something we want to pursue. And that's the whole idea of this exercise, but it may go slower than I thought. I thought people would have tax parcels in mind already. But I think you have to do more GIS analysis to further what is on the list.
So just to continue with my question then, but there already then was a choice of prioritization saying it's a priority of this board that are not within a quarter mile of protected land are a priority. That's the reason why this map was produced, right?
Right,
So,
because we were.
I mean,
looking at
articulating those
We were looking at,
priorities is, I guess, that's what happening
Right.
here, but.
yeah, because that's what both of these maps were about, right?
Yeah.
We felt last time that I was in the meeting that both concepts were kind of high priority, right?
The highest priority,
Well, then,
Yeah, like,
higher than if there's a parcel that's 5 acres or 10 acres, that's open space, that's adjacent to another large attractive forest.
well, that's what this one, that's what both of the, I thought both of these were in the high, like equally high priority.
So then within this is then, so then saying if these are the high priorities, then the highest priorities within these would be the darkest.
Right.
Okay. Just trying to understand like, what's the first lens you're looking through in each additional lens? So now that gives me more clarity. So basically you're saying that if it's on one of these two maps and it is the darkest of the above average, that automatically becomes a priority based on the data alone, nothing anecdotal.
Right.
so, I thought we further refine it to start to get, specific tax parcels.
And how will you get there?
Well, here in like in the
That's
pink,
the level underneath what she's talking about.
Right.
yeah, that's what so we just weed out those parcels that they're unlikely to, be candidates for preservation funding.
Unlikely based on what criteria?
They have a single family home on there, they have commercial property.
What if
And,
it's historic?
well, this is for preservation, we haven't discussed the historic.
That's part
Part of preservation.
Historic and open up is something different. You can't, we're looking at preservation goals, like land preservation. That's,
So you're differentiating between open space preservation and historic preservation.
yes, I am.
But the fund doesn't differentiate that.
Right.
But when you look at like Massachusetts, they do. When they have different criteria.
Right,
So
so
you-
I think this board needs to define, is there a difference and is there a priority? So you're articulating a priority.
Well,
You're saying
oh,
open
for-
space preservation is more important.
No, I'm saying for this analysis, we want to identify those properties. And I'm hoping we get like a list, I don't know, any 10, 20, 30 for land preservation.
So you're saying that
So-
this lens is open space lens?
That's an open space lens.
So separate process will happen for historic?
Historic preservation, where it'll be more wide open.
So then you are prioritizing open space above historic.
For the time being,
For this round of prioritization?
for this round of prioritization. We'll come back to historic preservation.
So not prioritizing higher, just first.
Just first, we're gonna figure out
Good.
what's gonna happen is that historic preservation application requests are gonna be very different from land preservation.
So then
There's been
something
significant-
else we need to filter out. So then the board needs to decide then, okay, if that is the current lens, which is first, we're going to prioritize looking at open space, not piece is better, but because we're just gonna have to choose one or the other first.
Yes,
And then after that, we'll do the same-ish process for historic. But in this process where you are now, if that's the lens, then you can go to the property code.
Yeah.
Or to the, is there a parcel present or not? And then the board will then decide, what is your open space definition? No buildings, certain property codes, certain zoning transect, and then Karen can filter out that another layer. So
Yeah.
you'll need to decide what gets excluded that's not including as open space. So for instance, if someone has a 200-foot yard and their house is a tiny house and all the rest of it is grass or open space, does that count as open space? Or
No.
not, because
no, because there's a house on it.
but what about the house next, the parcel next to them, which has no house, is this big?
Could be in a future community garden or something like that.
So could that other person's house could get subdivided?
Well, then, that's a different story. We're not gonna worry about if they get subdivided. We're gonna worry about whole tax parcels. And that's consistent with how we handle ag districts in New York state law. We're just looking at whole tax parcels. We're not gonna worry about if it's the potential for subdivision or anything like that.
Does the whole board agree with that?
I'm having this weird, it might be because it's so early in the morning. I feel like we're deep in the weeds and I don't even know where the weeds are. So I'd like to actually, I'm really sorry, but maybe we can take a step back. And think about, okay, here we got these two maps and they communicate priorities that we have communicated in the past. But you can't have two different priorities, honestly. You have to we have to actually figure out as a board, what is our prioritization? So we have this idea that we might want to focus on parcels that are deserts, that don't have protected nearby. And we have one where we might want to increase connectivity. Okay, these are two things that we're gonna have to decide between the two, what we think is most important at some point, because that can't have, that will be something that we're gonna have to decide. So I was curious about why we don't spend some time, actually making observations about this map, seeing where things might overlap, because there is information here. You can see the priorities here from this map, that is that outlines the parcels adjacent to protected lands and how it overlaps with the Kings, and vice versa. So, because I think we need to communicate priorities, but the process can't be talking about this level of detail.
Because it's
Well, we haven't as a board actually decided.
it's not as complicated. It's not as complicated. You worry about the whole tax parcel. Do a GIS analysis where you're looking at land preservation values. As someone who works for a land trust, what's important to you? All right, we'll come back to historic preservation, but the way historic preservation applications are different. We're talking about replacing windowsills and roofs and stuff. If you look at
That's not what we're talking
I
about at
know.
all right now.
I know, that's,
We're talking about preserving the land that has historic facility or building or something on it.
we can't group those together. It's too hard. I'm just saying right now, have a list of just land, what's potential open space, what could be a potential community garden, what's a potential, and figure out a list of those parcels.
What I'm hearing from Eli is that I think you are interested in having a higher level conversation about priorities versus getting to the parcel level.
Exactly.
So
I don't think-
That's what I think.
Am I alone in thinking that this board actually hasn't had that conversation?
No, that's what I've been trying to get to. as
So
well.
we need to take a step back and have a conversation so that we understand what each other's priorities are. Right, because I do think, and this is a good place to start, do we want to prioritize expanding uninterrupted corridors for wildlife? Do we want to prioritize providing land that's protected to folks that aren't close? I mean, I think that would be a good, we could get into that. I mean, I think, because
I
that's,
think it'll drag on.
well, yeah, because that's what it takes to get us all on the same page. It's a process, right?
I also feel like, you know, after talking to Carolee and some other people that have these plans in their communities, I also just feel like, you know, yes, we need to have concepts of what we're gonna prioritize, but I'm not sure right off the bat, we're gonna get 1 million applications. They're gonna
No.
trickle in. And so,
It's not at least, I'm trying to move this forward to something that's tangible. Because I remember I worked on a draft application. We said it wasn't quite right, it didn't quite capture everything. So then I started looking at what's going on in Massachusetts. And in Massachusetts, they're dealing with specific properties. They ask for the tax parcel and the address. And they tend to be some land preservation, like cemeteries, dealing with cemeteries, and other types of land use projects. The bulk of them are historic preservation. It's just probably the nature of it, where they're looking to, people are asking money to rehab a specific portion of a building. Like whether it's the roof, or they need a boiler, or, you know, it's a historic church.
their state law is probably different on what the reservation funds can be used for versus what our law is.
We don't know, because it's awfully similar. They're looking at both historic preservation and land preservation. So I'm hoping from here is that we start to identify tax parcels that are of particular importance, that don't come out.
And then what are we gonna do with that information if, you know, we spend all this time finding individual tax parcels and then none of those people ever apply?
You hold on to them because then they don't apply, but when they do apply, we know right off the bat that this is something that is of particular importance to us.
Which is why if we just have like a decision tree of what is our priorities based on starting on
We can do
these
that.
two other concepts and then going down, it's very easy once somebody applies to look at that tax parcel and see how it fits into the decision tree.
Then we're not creating a list of parcels, then you're creating a decision tree, you're helping.
Right.
me
We
decide.
criteria.
Right,
Then we're talking about criteria,
you're trying to work from the bottom up, we're trying to work from the top down.
so that we'll meet somewhere. But somewhere where we can see a specific parcel, and then we know this is of particular importance.
I think once the values are established and agreed upon, then you'll have a really clear advice and matrix for which to say, these are the parcels, how they fit into our matrix. Right?
It's gonna be really important because if you start with a single parcel right now, we all are coming from way different places. We have as a board shield around on what we're.
I tried to
My end goal is that we have not either a list or some process of the decision tree, we can look and say, this is something that we need to act. This is a tax parcel. We have to work.
If we don't have someone applying, then it doesn't matter. We are excited about one tax parcel. If there's no one to turn it into a park.
We don't have to reapply. They may never apply. And that's
So that's-
okay.
Work on prioritization so we can have a lot of tax parcels that we look at, right?
Well, I'm not talking about one tax parcel. My intention was like a bunch of tax parcels, and I thought this was kind of a start. Here, that this list will get whittled down, but this is not what the board wants to go. They want some, what I hear is that we all want to develop a process. When we see an application, when we do the GIS analysis, bingo, this is something we have. That's what I'm just trying to say, is that we know we have something clear in our mind. We see something. When we start getting applications.
Yes.
So then, okay, we'll go that route, just try a decision tree or some sort of process. So
I love the decision tree. I like that.
Has everybody looked at the open space plan prioritization? I'm sure you have. You have?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, because that informs some of this stuff.
I don't have the open space plan for them.
So, I mean, so should we start with just talking about folks think about these two different approaches?
But we'll just go with the approach, just developing a decision. tree.
Right, the approach of.
Is,
Yeah,
but
I mean, because you make these amazing maps for us. I really like to spend time with them. I think they're very important and on a higher level.
yeah, I think they're both equally important concepts for, being our top level of prioritization.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if somebody makes us an application, you know, the first level of checking is, you know, is it adjacent to protected lands or is it within a quarter mile of protected lands? And if it is, then we can, you know, automatically be like, okay, well, let's look at this and see if there's something. You know, is it something that's worth, if it's just, you know, somebody's little tiny backyard with one little apple tree in it, like my backyard, like, be like, yeah, no. Right? But if it does have then other things that are some sort of value, then turn it into a little community garden or something, then, you know, we can focus on it more.
Oh, I see. So it would be these two extremes.
Well, it is kind of, right? Because,
That would be the first filter.
but that would be the first filter because both of these are very important concepts, right? Connectivity to other parks is very important for, you know, wildlife and for humans to have that greater kind of wilderness, or not wilderness in the city so much, a little bit, depends on where you are, I guess. But like outdoor experience. But then also smaller parcels that are in the middle of a protected land desert, you know, are highly valued to protect. So I think they're both equally important.
How do you identify
It's,
parcels that increase connectivity?
how do you,
How do you identify parcels that increase connectivity?
if they're connected to or very close to another protected land.
Okay.
Does everyone agree that that's the number one?
Oh my gosh, look at that. First filter.
I think that's a really great list.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone agrees that including historic, that's the number one.
Oh,
Or are we doing this separately then? So I think
Don't
there's something that's-
do it separately.
Okay, so this is priorities for open space.
So I have a question about, as we think more about this, so if, in my mind, I've got these two parcels, one that meets both, one that meets one extreme, one that meets the other. And we have to make a decision around the money and which one are we gonna invest in? Because I do think that's gonna happen. And so even though we've got these two initial filters, after that, there's gonna have to be some sort of decision-making around where does it fit in this other prioritization plan, right? And I think for me, of course, I'm an environmental scientist, and I'm looking a lot more at air quality in Hudson Valley. And it is basic science that if there are deserts around things like open space and trees in particular, that you're missing an opportunity for filtering air for the surrounding communities. That so there's an argument to be made about connectivity, which also has its own air filtering capacity for the communities that live near there. And then when you have deserts around open space, you are also creating spaces where folks don't have access to those kind of ecosystem services of having your air filtered, basically. So then in my mind, if I had these two parcels to decide on, I might go towards the desert one because I want community to have access to cleaner air, like other communities, right? So so in like other folks, like are there like secondary prioritization things that you would think of that are important to you?
I think, oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, I think, not similar at all to that, but public access is a huge one, so protecting land is great, but if we're protecting land in one of these deserts, it'd be great to have public access on that land. And if one of them, we have these two applications, and one of them's like, we're just gonna protect it, and not do anything, versus we're gonna protect it and put trails on it.
I think something called,
So developing,
what is it?
Yeah,
We're getting shot.
Okay,
I was just gonna add that if that's kind of our concept of priority, then I should probably take off of the pink one the cemetery and the golf course, because that is,
that does beat that.
space, right? That doesn't meet that kind of open space, so
Yeah.
it is open space, and there is public access on the cemetery. Or golf course.
Yeah.
In the middle of winter when you like go skiing. So that could be like just a different level of making that like,
That'd be interesting.
people that live right there can just walk over to the cemetery. And I see people walking out in there all the time.
But that's putting public access above other things.
Right. That's, and the tree space. So that was putting both of them
At the same level.
at the same level. Greenery.
I think just,
I'm sorry, but just to go back to my understanding, when you say air quality or air quality protection, does that mean to you vegetation,
Yes,
a certain kind,
Does it need trees?
yes, trees.
so land cover.
not just a tree, but a forest of trees?
Doesn't have to be a full forest, actually.
But if nothing's there, let's say it's like a lawn,
Put land
It
cover.
could be developed.
it has to be stewarded.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need land cover because grass is land cover.
Yeah, I don't think that does, that's,
So you mean like carbon sequestration?
I guess they might go hand in hand.
Because
Filtering capacity with
because
carbon
there's then like the
sequestration.
urban heat island effect,
Sure.
which is different with grass versus pavement. But trees provide more than grass. So when, I just want to be clear, like,
That's a really good point, yeah. Yeah,
are
so
you
I
talking
think,
about trees
I am talking about trees.
or the shade?
Trees are shrubs, and
For,
so they provide shade, they also provide filtering for movement of air.
so this is for cooling and carbon sequestration.
But then you want some fields habitat too.
Exactly.
I have a question. Something I'm not entirely clear on, and then, so I'm not sure how this would fit in, but like this idea that some of these partial protections or all of them, I don't know, would be partnering with like a land trust or something like that. So it also, yeah, so where does that fit in? Because yes, let's say we have a parcel, there's nothing on it. What's the kind of development plan, if you will? And so that seems to necessitate a partnership, a willing partner. So do we need to factor in a willing partner as we're considering things? Because we're not going to be planting the trees and maintaining the
It's
trees.
sensitive finance analysis, you know it from the application. Whether you have a willing partner or not.
Well, you're not gonna do
But-
anything without a willing partner, but maybe you're using the willing partner differently. Are you saying like, Scenic Hudson approaches us, they want to do this, that automatically bumps us up? Or are you saying the Newcomb owners own this big parcel and they're willing to give that to us, so we should prioritize
Are they?
that?
Is that true?
No.
Okay. That's the Colliers. That's Sophia Collier.
For the record, I have not spoken with anyone in the Newcomb family to talk about this parcel, just using that as an example. The Nobles want to use their parcel and so we're willing. This inherent to the entire process, this can't happen unless the folks are willing.
Right.
So that's an automatic lens. We're just trying to parse in, like, do you mean some third party has extra funding for us? Or we have a grant, or like that kind of partner? Like, the
Well-
Y wants to partner to save something in Midtown.
That's what I'm not entirely clear on, but I think so, because yes, I mean, many of these things we couldn't do without a partner. So if there is a partner, I don't know, does that trump some landowner who's just willing to give it? I
Does
don't
that have to be
know.
automatic? That's what I'm
Yeah.
asking. Or
I
is
think
it,
you always have to have a willing partner equally.
And I guess the willing partner, not the landowner,
You're talking about the person who purchased the land,
Yeah.
hold the land, right?
or do something. I mean, I don't
Do
know.
something on, who's gonna be the steward of the land?
Yes,
so meaning
Steward.
a willing steward.
And it could be the person.
What does that
it could be
mean?
the-
So let's just think of a couple different scenarios.
yes,
City Hudson comes to me and says, we want to buy 101 Wilson Avenue, and we want to give you the funding for it. Will you be able to pay for the survey, the appraisal, and blah, 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 through your community preservation fund? Versus an opportunity, so back to 101 Wilson Avenue. City Hudson comes in and says, we want to preserve 101 Wilson Avenue. We're going to go and equal on it. Or you guys pay, but we'll help you with the average. Third scenario, Scenic Hudson says, oh, you want to come in? Or no, you just say, we want to look at 101 Wilson Avenue, the Nobles live there, we know they're a willing landowner, it'll be an easy win. Which one of those do you mean by willing?
well, that's my question.
Yes.
That's the question.
Right.
Is, yeah. And because I'm not entirely clear on exactly how this works.
Right, because the third one, we're pursuing 101 Wilson Avenue, we know the Nobles live there, they're willing. That's an easy, but all of them have to have willing. So that could be higher, like, meaning amicable, like they've already got that versus we need to convince someone to do it.
So we have a guest here.
Yeah.
This is kind of, Tara? So what you've seen so far, and your experience with gardening, walk us through your experience in gardening.
Sure, so we were all having these very similar decisions. This plan does not come with a script and the law is very obtuse, in my opinion, about once you get into the details of how things happen. So when I see you making this decision tree, I'm thinking, well, are you talking about acquiring land directly from a landowner? Is that what that one is about? Is it a conservation easement? Our town had an open space commission that was longstanding, and the open space commission worked with the DEC, and we have a beautiful NRI mapping system that helped inform our next decision when the town went to bring the Community Preservation Fund forward. In November of 2022, we passed our fund, and we currently have about $700,000 in the fund. Our town is different in terms of priorities than yours because we have Mohawk Preserve in our town and we have Lake Minnewaska. And that's a large protected parcel. So when our community preservation plan was created, which is informing a lot of our decisions now because a whole group of people came to consensus on this plan. So we really use that as a guiding document as best we can. That had a prioritization within it, and every parcel in our town got a score. It was based out of 100. So the highest ranking score in our town is a 70, and that's a farm. And so these conversations, started, well, let's start at the top. Well, it creates a whole host of issues when you go to that landowner that has a very high score, but you know that their value is going to exceed the amount that our fund has. So it's a hard balancing act, but we have a plan, and it's around two ideas. The first one is we took the scoring, and we broke it down into the percentages of ranking in our town, and we had a GIS consultant help us with that. Neil Curry, and and he helped like break down our scores into percentages to be able to see where we should target first. Based on that scoring, then we did direct landowner outreach, where we started with the first 1%. And we mailed them a letter explaining what our group is, why their why they were getting this letter, what their score was, and just offering a meeting to talk about how your land scored so highly, why it's valuable to the town. And then we started to receive these notes back, like, so it was a card that they could mail back or a Google form. And we received 13, with the first 3% of landowners, we received 13 people interested in learning about preserving their land, which was in that first priority. So then from there, the next decision tree for our group was, well, how do we go about this? Are we bringing land trusts? Because our focus really is not on obtaining land for the town, it's conservation easements, and the landowners keep their land and we obtain a conservation easement to preserve their scores and development in the future. So, you know, how is our committee communicating with landowners? Is it one person, two people? We came to agreements on that. We have land trust partners that we, so that's the outreach to the broader group. We also in the town meetings, just explain to everybody that this is available to them. So how do you equitably make the town aware that this exists for people that don't get that letter? So just how are we communicating that fully? The other section that is important, in my opinion, is the farming of our town. So we have, during the Open Space Commission, when we had no money to preserve anything, we did direct landowner outreach to the farms, where we did education on the New York State Island Market Branch. And we did a direct mailer to every farm in our town. So inviting them to the town to meet. And I think that in the future, when we go to spend money and people question us, say, well, you know, we did tell all of the farmers that this was available, and this one farmer came forward, and that's how we're moving forward. So, you know, just how, whichever plan you guys choose, how are you defending your choices in a way? So that's important, because this group of volunteers, we are charged with making recommendations to spend money. And when there's money involved, it is very important, in my opinion, that our processes, it is very transparent. So
You said to defend decisions of
yeah,
this board, and that's, I think we're off to a great start here, where basically we may get a bunch of strong applications. I agree initially we won't get a whole lot, but we need to say what was particularly strong, and this will help us do that. That's kind of the stage that we're at. And
what I'm hearing you say is not even flow, yes, particularly strong, but also did everyone have equal access to being able to be considered?
yeah. So we want the town, anybody can apply to be somebody that either donates a conservation easement, that we purchase a conservation easement from, that they donate the land to the town, that we purchase land from a willing landowner. We also watch the county auctions to see if anything comes up on county auctions. That's a different process of obtaining land. And all of those options exist And I think our plan helps inform our decisions, but willing landowner, if we can have all of these plans, but if nobody wants to talk about conserving their land, it does.
Can you talk a little bit? Thank you so much for taking time. Can you talk a little bit more about the beginning stages and how you all got to where you are now in terms of having a common understanding as a board about your plan? What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it looked very similar to what's happening here, I think. Yeah,
That's good.
yeah, it's the process and it doesn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no answers.
Did you spend time having high level conversations mixed in with, so before you got a lot of, or any applications or really got specific?
Yeah, it took us about a year
Yeah.
to get to the point where we were ready to have meaningful outreach. Because if we were not in agreement or didn't have a plan, it just felt very haphazard,
And how long have you all been in existence?
November 2022, the law passed, so sort of spring 2023 we formed. And our old open space commission closed. So our group also took on the duties and responsibilities of our open space commission and the new community preservation fund group, so we're doing both.
And where are you in the process with that one farm? Did you pursue that?
So just last week, we got our first confirmation from a landowner, the farm that we're gonna be pursuing the ag markets grant. So that would be a 75% funded through ag and markets and 25% through our community preservation fund.
And then is there an outside organization? I mean, I understand ag and markets, but is there?
Yeah, there's many people involved. We have a third-party grant writer who is writing the ag and markets grant. We are partnering with Walker Valley Land Trust to hold the agricultural easement. And it is our town's position that since when the town of Gardner holds about 8 conservation easements without a land trust partner. And based on our experiences with trying to enforce those, moving forward, the town needs a land trust partner to hold the conservation easement.
So I think that differentiates between a partner organization and a willing partner. A willing partner is students really want to sell their house, so they're one of Wilson Avenue's gonna go, or whatever. We want to tear down a house and make it open space. Versus a land trust or City Hudson or somebody else being the organizational partner.
Right, so the
So then the
organization,
board needs to decide if an organizational partner is involved, does that automatically bump it up?
Well, too, because who else is gonna hold the land for the easement?
I'm still
Yeah.
sure
it's
that
a-
stays.
that's
Yeah,
it.
but that doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna be doing that. It could just mean that they want to help pay cash.
Well, we need someone to hold the land.
But the homeowner, they're the property owner could hold
and
it.
the conservation.
Hold the easement, yeah. So there needs to be another, because the board can't hold
Right,
that interest. We need somebody else to do it.
right. But is there a difference in priority between that being a third party or that being the actual owner?
I think one of the points that Tara was making is that Gardner does not want to hold any conservation easements anymore.
I will tell you why. The town of Gardner, when a municipality holds a conservation easement, we are not eligible to hold terra firma insurance, which is the insurance that allows a land trust to defend any violations within a conservation easement. So
So
if the town has a violation, it is very expensive to try and fix it. It comes out of the municipal pot.
So I think one of the things we need to know is the city going to want to hold the conservation easements, or do we need to find a land trust that is willing to hold the conservation easement? And yeah, based on terra firma and what I know about the Gardner properties, I would also suggest that land trust.
Yeah. I did
found
try
most of
and
those,
obtain
filings.
terra firma insurance directly for the town, but the town is not an eligible party to hold this type of insurance. So it is not something, even if the town wanted to buy, they could.
So then where does that fit into this decision tree?
I feel like that goes on the opposite side of the willing partner, right? So we need a willing partnership either with an organization or with the city. Because if we don't have that, who's gonna hold land for the
Right,
interest?
you either need to have a willing partner or an organizational partner.
So we're looking at whether there's basically this subset in here, like, is it is it land that's gonna be held in fee, or is it land that is gonna have a conservation easement on it? And then from there you can make, like, do you have willing partner for maintaining the property that's held in fee, or do you have an organizational partner that's going to hold the conservation easement?
I think what I found.
Okay, the homeowner,
The
The
town.
property owner.
okay,
Right, so the city
Okay.
would own the property,
okay,
or Kingston Land Trust would own the property. They own it outright, it doesn't have restrictions on it from a conservation easement.
okay, okay.
Because if it's just a conservation easement, literally any of us could own it. Like,
Uh-huh,
you could sell it to him and then he could sell it to her. Like,
but the
But it's
conservation
conservation
easement stays.
The one thing, as we get further into looking at acquiring conservation easements directly from landowners, is that the law has a public access requirement. So there would be some portion of the funds spent to build a trailer access, not for farmland, but for conservation easements where we are spending community preservation fund money. There's public access.
And so if we were thinking about how we do, so that would that be coming out of our management stewardship fund? That would go along with that?
I don't know if you saw how we break it up. Where I put it, but. So we take a percentage of each year, of each month, we have public action.
The 10%,
Or like a little bit of conservation, I don't know if it's under.
It's
We diversify with the funds.
yeah, whoever this.
So I can go.
Partnership.
asked our attorney about that, like, how do we calculate that? And then so, you guys have a process and that's fine, but like, what is 10%? Is it like the current fund balance? Is it of the project? So.
If I'm gonna
It's right under this. The properties that you will be doing conservation easements on, if we build a trail, there is long-term maintenance of that trail.
Right.
So that would come from this kind of.
Yeah.
Fund, yeah.
And when you were working with land trusts, did their prioritization come into play? Or just your community preservation board's prioritization? 'Cause they
That's a
could be
great, yeah,
different.
that's a great question, because our historical conservation easements, we asked if we could pay for them to take over, and they're like, oh no, those are not within our current priorities.
Right.
But for our new acquisitions, we check in. Is this something that you are willing to hold? Does this meet the land trust? And
Right.
if not, then we have to find a different land trust.
Yeah, I asked that question because I'm on the board of the Kingston Land Trust. And that could come into play here, like our prioritization, which goes to the heart, I think, of what you're asking. Our prioritization could be a little different than yours.
But there's other land trusts in the area.
Yeah.
Those are big doors that-
We have two others sitting here, yes. And then there's scenic Hudson, and, you know,
Right.
there could be Woodstock, yeah, the list goes on, right down.
Oh, no, yeah.
Did everyone give their priorities for this light pink color, the public access, the air quality? Casey, Kevin, did you guys provide input after that?
And now I'm hearing that public access is a requirement.
For conservation reasons.
And land,
And-
any funds non-agricultural that you spend CPF money on, public access is a requirement.
So maybe we could change public access to type of public access, because there's different types, you know, it's a picnic table, a lawn versus long trail.
Right.
Boat launch.
So there's passive recreation, there's active recreation,
Yes, so
and then there's, we're not allowed, there, people can't go, technically they can go there because it's public land, but we're not stewarding. So for instance, right now, Kingston Wilderness property that we purchased, we have provided nothing for people to get there. And we've just not said, come and visit. So currently, there's no public access.
Well, that makes,
That's called public access by invitation or something. We can use that language as well. Yeah.
I think public access is good, just call it public access.
then I'm thinking about, I don't know how to frame it, like accessibility, is it, you know, how accessible is it to folks without a car or something like that?
And some of these things could be the potential for public access, the potential for accessibility. Yeah, there's not going to necessarily be parking lot and trails on it.
Right.
There's potential for it. There might not even be trees on it yet, but there's potential for it.
So would you say fully accessible, meaning whatever you think fully accessible would be a higher priority than less accessible?
I think so.
Yes.
But then,
You're
because I
prioritizing
think
humans over the land itself.
then we also have to consider just fully accessible, then does that include wheelchair
Yes, that's what
accessibility? You
fully
know,
accessible would mean. Fully accessible means any person of any ability can get there.
well, that's a lot.
You know, if you can reach it by public transportation, that's great. You know, that really, in my mind,
Yeah,
we're good.
Okay, is that on equal level with public access and air quality, or is that under public access?
I'd say under.
Yeah,
Meaning under fully accessible, under limited accessible?
right under public access.
Kevin, did you give your priorities?
My priorities or the Kingston Land Trust priorities?
Whatever hat you're sitting in.
Well, it could go both ways. Yeah, my priorities were sort of derived from the natural resource inventory that we all worked on at the CAC, as well as the open space plan and the community preservation plan. And I think Kingston Land Trust priorities are more or less derived from that, although we have a prioritization chart that's numerical. And yeah, you got a certain number of points for this or that. I don't know if this is the right time or venue to start going through, but go down into that rabbit hole. But yeah, it's not too dissimilar from what we're trying to do here. I think we've done that process. I did the initial prioritization for Kingston Land Trust many years ago. Greg Shaheen reworked it in more recent years as more as a consensus thing with our shared leadership team and the board. The initial work that I did had to do with I was just trying to get a bare bones thing that would fly and not get shut down by the Internal Revenue Service. So as part of the Form 1023 process, I I picked the brain of the IRS person that I was working with. And I geared it towards them, and then I also geared it toward picked up some ideas from Westchester Land Conservancy, because at that point in time, they'd never been on it. And they have a whole lot of easements. So, I went through all of that, but we've only done a couple of easements to Kingston Land Trust. Most of our portfolio is fee. And I think I'm probably talking too much, so I want to get back. And,
So, but are you saying that consistent with the open space plan,
yeah, consistency, yeah, that's one of my key words.
is that higher than air quality protection and public access? Meaning, if you have a willing partner and or an organizational partner, but it's inconsistent with the open space plan,
That's a problem.
is that a must?
You have to resolve that.
Yeah, it could legally bite us. It doesn't have to be consistent with open space plan, but if someone really wants to contest the decision-making of this board, and even though it's just a recommendation, but that recommendation to not fund, or to fund for that matter, the common council becomes a problem for the common council, basically.
Can anyone think of an example of something that would be inconsistent with the open space plan, but would meet other criteria?
The reality is the community preservation plan was developed based on the open space.
Uh-huh.
But the open space plan is broader visionary goals, like 5 miles of trails,
Yeah,
50 acres of farmland. Okay, so that could be something that's inconsistent. So for instance, in the open space plan, the parcels over by Point of Praise are prioritized as farmland. If this board decides to take that parcel and then make it something else that's not farmland, that would be inconsistent with the open space plan. Or if, since the open space plan says 1,000 feet of new waterfront access, and this board decides to take a waterfront parcel and not make it public access, just make it closed land
To protect a nesting bird.
to protect the nesting bird, that would be inconsistent with the open space plan.
If it only becomes a problem if someone disagrees with us and takes the city to court.
I think if there's any inconsistencies, we have to have a really good reason for it, like a rare and endangered nesting bird, right?
Yeah,
I think
maybe
there,
a really good reason, or it's something in some other plan that's applicable.
yeah, the green line, for example, that's been a high priority, acquisition along the green line has been a priority for Kingston Land Trust, and we have several examples for that. And a lot of unfinished work involving it.
and Julie, so is the edit, the very top,
Yeah,
it's supposed to be not within quarter mile.
yes, thank you. Okay, so then back to that question, is the location on this map where consistent with open space plan is, does that need to before the other ones, or is it staying here?
Stays there.
Okay,
Yeah, because I think you made some good points. There could be reasons why something would be considered that's not consistent, but we have to be able to defend it.
Casey, you put your priorities onto this, or you see them?
Yeah, I'm just curious about
Habitat. is
habitat.
What my note was.
Okay, so is that light pink?
Yeah,
What do you mean by habitat?
habitat protection.
What kind of habitat? My yard is habitat for millions of insects and children. Habitat for fish, habitat for invasives, habitat for protected creatures. Biodiversity maybe would be a better word.
Biodiversity.
I mean, every single thing that, this is a human habitat. Just like the word itself, ecologically, is not gonna be enough, because any art
I'm
to justify it. I mean, biodiversity might be better,
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
biodiversity protection might be a good term, but I don't wanna change
No,
your
that's just-
value if that's
no.
not what you mean.
I am open to adjusting the
If you mean
way
like-
that we say it, but
Yes.
like basically, including our vernal pools, including the abandoned mines that are now bat habitat and salmon habitat, including, whatever little,
So that brings up a different point that could change the priority, which is, so there's biodiversity protection, so let's say the large areas of, here and here are protecting a lot of different flora and fauna. But what if we identify an endangered plant that happens to be somewhere near the river, and it's one single plant that is endangered, and we know where it is, but we want to protect it, but it's not protecting a biodiverse habitat or region, it's protecting a single plant
I think,
or a single type of creature like bats, which are endangered. So does endangered species protection of known endangered species locations jump?
I think there's two different questions in there. Protecting an underground habitat that's got a colony of bats in it is different than protecting an underground habitat that has one bat in it. Because the one bat doesn't necessarily need a population.
Yep.
And there are definitions of that kind of thing when it comes to the people that study this stuff, right? They still claim there's no mountain lion population in the Adirondacks because there's only incidental ones they've never really seen. They say they've never seen like population of them. So one plant could have gotten washed in on the side of the river and next year it's gone and it's not established. Right? It's just an incidental. So I think for that kind of thing, we should maybe go to the, biologist's definition of whether or not it's an established species.
Well, and maybe that's already captured in the numbers. And that actually called up the question of, where does the score fit into this?
Yeah.
Is everyone considering a 1 is the same as a 30?
I guess we'll continue with this discussion. We'll postpone the, to talk about the transfer tax next meeting. We had a full agenda today.
Yeah.
All right. Next meeting. Right.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Uh,
Give momentum here.
So, obviously, some of the things that we're talking about now, like the nuance of does an endangered species exist there, could probably be captured by it in the score.
Right.
So we don't need to get into that, except you need to know where does the score fit into this criteria. So towards the, justification, someone can say, are you serious? I might not have hit all those things, but I'm a 30. I'm the highest score and you didn't even think of this. So where does the score fit into this? Or does it not? Because it doesn't need to. Because a score of 1 technically gets eligibility.
It doesn't need to.
Does it need to?
It doesn't need to.
It
Just
should be further down the list is if we're looking at two properties that have fairly equal levels in the decision tree, then the 30 might get weighted more than.
Yeah, it's a priority. It actually is the prioritization.
Right.
the 30 doesn't say in the plan because you get a 30. You automatically get funded or even
Right.
bumped up to the line. It's still a deliberative body. And this is helping with the deliberations.
So the group is in agreement that after going through the decision tree, then if they're side by side, you look at the number?
It's a tool.
Okay. On this line. On this line.
And what about how biodiversity protection and public access may be in conflict with each other?
Yeah, I was curious about that too. And also, I think So the air quality protection, it should probably be air quality and climate protection. Because there are many different ways that having open space of certain types can mitigate both air quality and climate, and they're also intertwined. But then I started realizing, is there like a way where, I mean, if you're gonna have air quality protection, or you're gonna have something that's helpful around climate change, it also is gonna protect biodiversity, because it has to. You can't separate some of these things out at all.
And why aren't you saying water quality?
Yeah, so I'm curious about, and there are other bodies that think about these things and create priorities. But just curious about if we treat them as separate, these pieces around biodiversity preservation versus air quality protection or climate protection, we're missing this opportunity to really lean heavily on the fact that whatever we're doing with this community preservation board is for humans, and it should be, and that's a good thing. That we are doing stuff because it's a city, so we have to be doing something for humans. That's our job. So we miss out on this opportunity to actually kind of re-educate ourselves and the community around how to think about climate change, air quality, and biodiversity protection. If we start saying, okay, do you know what I'm saying? Like, we miss out on this opportunity of understanding that by putting these together, instead of treating them separately, we actually are doing what's right for humans, first and foremost, and that's okay. That's what we're doing.
I like water quality protection as its own box.
Okay.
And air quality, when we said air quality, I thought of when I was in Singapore, they put all these planners to really combat the urban heat island effect and to improve air quality. They're a very tightly populated city and a very warm area of the world. So, the planning projects are very much part of air quality and water quality too. Maybe air quality / water quality. It gets into the urban planning nitty-gritty.
I think you should, I just want to say, to your question, a little bit yours, the balancing, I'm actually working on a project where I'm trying to balance the public access with the biodiversity protection, trees and all the things. And they're not mutually exclusive. And one of the best examples of that right now that I'm working towards in this one park that we have that the land trust owns, it floods a lot. And so the trails, they get wider and wider because everything's muddy. And I started looking at those lower boardwalks with the little rails so that if somebody's in a wheelchair, they don't roll off the edge. When I first did boardwalks to people in the community, they were like, oh my goodness, we don't want boardwalks in there. Then when I explained these are these lower boardwalks and nesting ducks like to utilize the space underneath them in order for a protected nesting habitat, and the ducks don't seem to mind people walking on top of them. Then everybody was suddenly excited about this and was like, oh, that is a good idea because you're going to be protecting the habitat because you're not making muddier trails. We still have good access and we've got this added bonus of baby ducks, right? So they're not mutually exclusive. You just have to look at more of the planning on how to make them combine properly.
I just want to make a note about the air quality, biodiversity, and water quality thing. I would not advocate for combining them together for this reason. You can have air quality protection without biodiversity protection, and here's how. I can plant 50 trees along Broadway. That helps with air quality. Is it arguably helping with biodiversity? Not much, but it's helping with air quality. Is it helping with water quality? Yes, but the point of it might be one over another. And, same thing with like biodiversity protection. We could put in a meadow somewhere, but is that helping with air quality as much as planting a forest? So it might be protecting biodiversity or air quality. I don't know if you want to nuance that differentiation. We can keep it to nuance and to separate it out, in which case I would then add water quality. Or you can put it all together as in, call it like environmental benefits.
Correct, doesn't check one of these boxes
Yeah.
type of thing.
What I'm trying to get at is that I don't think the
Ecological
Preservation
resources.
Advisory Board is gonna, I don't think we're gonna be very popular if we're running around trying to protect the nature, single species things. What I do think, I think we'll probably have a better time of it if we're able to clearly and initially point out how it's good for humans. And I honestly, as an environmental scientist, I don't think if we do things that are actually good for humans, it's good for everything. It has to be the fundamental. And so anything we do to protect ourselves around climate, anything that we do around air quality and water quality protection at this point is also good for the environment. That is not us, the non-human environment. So, and I think what I'm trying to do is get away from the politicized nature of protecting biodiversity versus, you know what I'm saying?
I understand.
And like to
Yeah.
step right out of that, 'cause it's silliness and it's not real, you know, and to actually like, I just think it would be cool for us to think, well, okay, we're doing this community preservation advisory board is about working hard for the humans who live here and doing our best. So if we keep our eyes on that and understand that these other things cascade from that in a very clear way and are able to communicate that, just that's what. So does that
So
make
then,
sense?
does that need to be written in here? Humans are the number one priority.
And that's okay. That's like a really good thing.
Is everyone okay with that?
I think it's all in how you put the language, because explaining to people sometimes that certain species are humans, protecting that species is important. You know, it's just a matter of saying, like, of helping people realize that protecting individual species is important for human,
Right.
for humans.
Right. So it puts the onus on us to build that bridge. And that means we have to do education and actually.
So are you saying take out the air quality protection and the biodiversity protection and add in humans?
I don't know. Actually, I'm sorry. I'm just saying if we separate them out as if they're debatable things that you can prioritize one or the other, it just it's the
So maybe we just need a, not in the decision tree, but in the list of, we need like a list of lines of how we defend our tree. So the tree defense for biodiversity protection is, how does it relate to protecting or enhancing human experience,
being able to articulate that.
right? Because we might need to end up having like a list of kind of responses that are the initial responses, and then we can expand if we need to, but
The water quality protection, I think we may run across some green infrastructure projects, or projects that involve green infrastructure, so. Having done a lot of work with the Lower Silvis,
So add that in.
yeah,
That goes against what you're saying?
No, I'm curious though, where does climate fit in? Is that just in everything?
it's everything.
Okay. Maybe we should state that. Because when I talk about air quality and water
that's
quality,
a part of.
I'm like, we should have some sponge parks around, right? So these sponge parks that are now being built that are soaking up water so other parks don't flood. Well, those are infrastructure.
Yeah.
They can be in space and they can be accessible, all these things. So, yeah, just wondering.
Good idea.
So just another consideration, and you stop me if you want, if you don't want me to keep going on this, but where does the city administration wants to do this? So let's say there were a parcel I was pursuing right now and haven't talked to you all about it because I've been given directive as my professional position. And I'm doing due diligence. And the administration would love the CPF to be put towards that parcel. Or for instance, Kingston Wilderness, which has already been committed.
Yes.
So where does that come into this? Is that automatic? Is it not? Because this board is created to make the decisions?
We're created to make a recommendation.
You're created to make recommendations, and the city administration could say, thanks for your recommendation, but we're moving forward with this.
Can the city administration do that, or the common council can do that? Or both?
That's a good question.
We make the recommendation to the common council. I don't even know if it's binding. It's not.
Let's go to the. Establish a fund advisory board, okay. What's the person? Advisory board. An advisory board is hereby established to review and make recommendations on proposed acquisitions of interest in real property using monies from the fund. Appointed by the common council, the board shall act in an advisory power to the common council. So that even more reinforces. That's maybe two different points. Where does the common council's priorities fit into this, and where does the administration's priorities fit into this?
Well, I would assume we would be told by the administration that this is what they want to do, and that we would give our opinion based on our decision tree. And that's our advice.
And then they could take
They
it.
can do whatever they want. And, you know, that's politics for you, right?
Okay, so.
Maybe.
It's staying out of politics.
Well, it's just like, here's our
That's
advice.
not in the decision tree, that's just so it's part of the defense principles? Or not?
Well, I think if the administration wants to do something with the money that is here, it's my understanding that they can do that.
That was my understanding too. I mean,
And we can give our advice and be
we
happy.
give our
about it.
advice and they don't necessarily follow it or not.
Okay, so it's not a defense principle, and it's sort of a caveat.
Yeah,
Caveat being, we could go through all this, but if the administration comes in and says you're putting the money towards
or they,
Kingston Wilderness.
We will make sure they are putting the money towards that. It's not the board's
and we
decision.
would have
That's
to,
what we'll do.
we would have to, because Kingston Wilderness is already existent.
You can't
As the
spend
example,
CPF funds
right,
on
so we would
something
have to
that
come
already
back and say,
exists.
We spend it on
we
a bond.
can't.
We've been told we can pay back a bond.
For something that already exists.
You are under a different impression.
Yeah. That was, I didn't ask specifically about a bond, but we do have like conserved lands that we could, but we can't spend CPF on something that's already existing. Was our legal advice.
Okay. We've been told we can spend it on a bond. But.
Legal advisors.
We can't see this.
Mm.
Oops, sorry. But so,
Well, I want to be clear, I'm not against that at all, like as a theory, you know, it's a good thing to discuss, but I do think, I mean, as an advisory board, I think we get requests, we'll be soliciting requests, we'll get requests from all sorts of different parties, and that includes the administration.
Sure.
But it just so happens the administration can, and city council they can do whatever they can spend that money. And so I think what there should be a process around is if there is going to be money spent from this fund, that the advisory board is consulted. And we
Of course.
say what we think and how does it fit within our decision tree. And we present that to the city council in whatever formal manner. And then the decision goes forward and we. I think that's it. That's our
Yeah.
job, is that if there's going to be money spent, our advice should be sought.
And we go through the same process no matter who is.
For everything.
And then that is recorded that we advised, say, against this one thing, but the city decided it was more important for them, so they went and did it without our advice, but I think they can do that.
because it's advising only.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Okay, so I just wrote as a caveat, this is an advisory board. If proposals come from the administration or common council, then move through the same decision process. Yeah. Is that
Yes.
accurate?
Yep.
It's just another source of a proposal.
Yeah.
Whether it's one Wilson Avenue coming to the board or the administration or the common council, this is still the decision tree.
Also, it'd be interesting, we could do a little test run with the Kingston Wilderness
Right.
and see how this plays out.
Such good.
One thing I recently learned about spending these funds is that, I don't, you may know this already, but there has to be a public hearing in advance of the expenditures of any of the funds from the community preservation fund.
And in that public hearing, people can argue for or against it, kind of thing?
Yeah, and you're also disclosing like the fund amounts that will
Uh-huh.
be spent.
Have you had that? Have you done that?
It is upcoming for us, so
Okay.
within the next 3 months, we'll have a public hearing.
Do you anticipate any troubles?
Oh, I'm not answering that.
Let's public hearing, just for one instance, or are you talking about a bunch of?
It would be the one property for the first stage of a 2-stage public hearing.
And that, so so like that's in front of the common council? Who
Yeah, common council.
hears that? So they're getting like our input and then they're getting the public input. Okay.
Something else that isn't considered here is necessarily, and maybe it is in the CPP score, but size. Let me see if the score captures size. So like, say to go through all of these is a 10-acre parcel more valuable than a 1-acre parcel?
We have to come back to that, make sure we're not being redundant.
Well, I'm just looking now in the current scoring, because you do have score represented here, but if it's not represented in scoring, then that is something else. It is not represented.
It is,
I don't see in any of the scores, there's things related to wetlands, buffers, not sized. Surface waters and streams, floodplains, it's not based on size.
Would that be reflected in the price of the property?
Active farmland, it is based on size.
Oh,
Only that one is it based on the size of the property. So there's nothing inherently that just says
okay.
if it's 17 acres, it automatically has more, a higher value.
But does size matter if we want like a community garden on 1 acre versus like a park on 10 acres?
Yeah.
Those are both valuable things.
It's a question I have. Does it's just the criteria of size. Right,
Not necessarily.
or cost.
Well, cost, yes. We'll come back to that, I guess, when we talk about the application. But I saw in Pittsfield and others that they have eligibility applications. They just want to screen out a lot of projects. And when they talk about, school project budget, and I know what you're getting, they're asking for too much. I mean, you're gonna toss out the application. I mean, it's. But,
I think something else that is not represented on this decision tree is future plans for the property. You know, it's one thing to have someone put a trail in and then just leave it for it. Another thing to have like the city of Kingston coming in to create a park and steward it in perpetuity. So is that something that we should consider in the decision tree, that they have future plans for the property?
There's some development or
Or I'm thinking more of like a stewardship plan or like,
that should be part of our due diligence. And we really start examining the project and the property.
so you don't think we should consider that when prioritizing plans that they have?
What if its better use is housing?
And then we can't do it.
Where does it say that on here?
I thought, oh, well, we can't find anything having to do with housing, right? This can't.
But right now, the housing office, and the mayor could go in and say, this property, but this property would be great for us.
I don't think that's captured well in the decision tree. I
It's
think
not captured in the decision tree or the scoring.
Or the score. I think that's something when we sit and we evaluate these applications, well, then we really start to look at the nitty gritty. We can ask the planning board, planning department, if the site plans on file, we consider, and we can look at any other policy documents after that to see if there's conflicts. But
So for instance, when you get an appraisal done, and I don't know the exact language, but something like highest and best use or something of the property, and the highest and best use, it is not open space.
No, it's always housing.
It's always housing. So that has to be considered somewhere.
Then we'll never end up protecting anything.
yeah,
No, if it's got steep slopes, it's not good. If it's not protected, if it's wetlands, if it's not.
a lot of housing projects still need to get built. or they,
That doesn't mean.
it doesn't mean you take them off the market from housing. I would rather have it be part of the discourse, whether or not, some other land use should take precedent over what, like a land conservation project.
I mean, if looking at housing, this is just my personal opinion, always thought that they should utilize parcels that are, say, already have a structure on there that can just be like
Yeah,
raised and
Infill would be the priority.
be done for the housing, and then I would never want them to just like bulldoze forest to put in housing, even if the ranking makes that area highest and best use because it's got the right slopes for housing. Like, I just have never personally agreed with that.
Then that's a priority for you.
Yeah,
But I mean, there's a whole climate thing in there, because
Right.
basically you can raise that, like, take that forest out and then create a bunch of housing that's no longer habitable
right.
nearby because it was relying on that
And I'd rather
existing in the
see-
first place. So there's like a climate change approach to that, to think about that. That isn't just about preserving a forest, it's about preserving capacity for the community to
Right.
make it.
Right, it's all of those things.
If it's, I don't want to get into, we shouldn't get into, a position where we're saying this is best for housing, but if there is an application before the planning board for like some sort of housing development, then we can take the application off the table. At that point. That's a very fine, definite point when we do that. But if there isn't, I just, you don't consider it.
You don't consider housing.
Housing, just don't.
I disagree 100%.
Well, so.
And I'm just speaking I'm speaking for my position. Housing is extremely important to this
It
mission.
is.
If you're not considering housing in your discretion,
There's a housing development constantly being proposed near a throughway. And if it floods there, it's gonna be surrounded by a moat.
Casey
Okay,
Meadows, I'm very, very familiar, in which case this board would say, wow, that Kingston Meadow property is a terrible location for housing. Check, we've gotten rid of that as a lens.
So how about, I mean, I feel like shouldn't there be that, since housing is absolutely consideration always, anyway, in a city. Isn't there a way where we would have a point where we get past all these things, but then there's a review of committees across the city that would, including the planning board and those kinds of things, where we check in with everyone and make sure, like, this is what we're thinking, are there plans? Because if the administration has a priority around housing, but it hasn't been communicated in any sort of concrete application to the planning board, I'm not sure how you would capture that, but it seems to me there has to be, and it's not even kind of a decision-making tree, it's like checking in to make sure that this doesn't clash with other prioritization processes that are happening across the city. So maybe it belongs in the decision tree, or.
let the common council do it. We make a recommendation. There's no, like I said, plans for housing that are just, going before the thing. We just make a decision as normal. If the common council says, no, we recognize that there's a potential for housing, so we won't fund this project. Lay it at their feet. Have them coordinate with the planning department. And do the conservation value. Make a recommendation.
A lot of times land trusts partner with developers, including housing developers. How does that influence this? Where you have an open space component, and then you have a housing component
Yeah.
on the, could be on the same parcel.
Yep.
So, yeah, which will throw a wrench into trying to.
That's a lot of
sort
times
things out.
conservation easement.
Yeah, right.
So then if a parcel comes up that could have housing and open space, wouldn't that be a higher priority than other uses of the space?
They could be. I think you'd have to, now you're getting into the parcel level.
And then,
Yeah, we don't want to do that today, but.
and that, the the funds could only be used for paying for the helping to pay for the conservation.
Conservation.
But maybe something on this light pink line could be have public access, air quality consistent, and it also incorporates housing.
If humans are our first priority,
Yeah,
And where I see this in biggest conflict is agricultural land, right? People love to build farms on farm agricultural land. And so, and there's been no mention of agriculture in anything, and then there's no mention of the housing, and that's where I see the biggest conflict. We're not talking about like a rocky cliff necessarily, but good old flat open land.
It's a good point. Is that a lens that should be prioritized over other agriculture? And ag is included into the scoring. So it's just something to think about also. So right now, some of these things on your priorities are double counted again in the score. So like air quality protection arguably could be included. Some of these things like unfragmented forests, it's already getting points for that, so it's already got air quality protection or water protection or biodiversity. Ag is reflected in here, so there's higher points for ag land. There's nothing reflected for points for housing. So it's just a matter of like what lens, because so you just brought something up of, okay, a parcel comes up and whether it's ag like a community garden or ag like a farm, does this board want that to be a higher value?
There's only there's really one spot where you get any sizable farm in the city. Other than that, you're talking urban agriculture. And so I don't think we have to make this incorporated into the decision.
But that's only if you're thinking of farm as in sort of acre farm. You have YMCA farm project that's on less than an acre, which means any less than an acre farm could be mass producing a large amount of food. And could be called a farm. Pine Street Garden, if that still
I
exists.
think the types of farms we're talking about would be good for air quality protection, be consistent with the open space plan, have willing partners, public access,
I don't know, you have to buy the person, you know.
biodiversity. So I
I
don't,
mean, I'm also bringing this up because one of the things that it says right in the establishing legislation is that this advisory board should be consistent of a representative from the Ulster County. Exactly.
yeah, and I'm
Does it
telling you.
not have that in the decision?
Yes. It can be, we're not discriminating against farms here. I mean, you're way ahead. You have urban agriculture in your new form-based code. That speaks volumes.
But nowhere in here
It
does it
doesn't
say
have to
anything
be,
about the code.
it's in the conservation plan and your open space plan. Bayhand Consulting did a brilliant job addressing it.
Okay, so then you're saying that the consistent with open space plan captures that.
Yes. Yes, it captures it.
And as the farmer representative in the room, does that sit with you?
I feel fine with that, yeah.
Right.
So I'm more interested in the housing.
Yeah, that's,
aspect.
housing is tough.
You might want to take a look at Cookingham, how that's structured. Quarter to 10, we don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but, you might want to take a look at that. We've discussed that extensively at Hudson Valley Affordable Housing and Land Conservation.
I would say we come back and look at housing and how we treat housing.
Is there a comprehensive housing plan that we could be referring to?
There's a comprehensive housing. There's a housing study that was done. I guess that would be that.
Okay,
I can get folks to link to it.
Ulster County has a countywide housing action.
okay.
I can start off, if you have, everyone has to be at their day jobs. We're done for now, right?
Well, I have everything that was discussed captured here. I'll circulate this. People can
Can we
take a look
ask
at it.
her, she has any
Yeah.
wise words for us?
You guys are doing a great job. It's like to commend this whole board about how productive this meeting was. It does not always happen in such a professional way. So well done, everybody.
Thank you for being here.
And well done you. for leading the way.
So I'd like to, get a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Casey, and second Jen. All in favor? Unanimous.
Can we also make sure that there's forum for the next meeting, this is October 22nd at 8 AM.
Here,
I'll be here.
Yeah. I'm okay.
So it adjourned at 9:45 AM.
Yes, yeah, okay. And actually, if we want to have all of this, want to talk about all these things, I don't know. You don't-
Nice maps.
You don't need it.
I'll take the mask, so.
I'm second.
No, I didn't hear underlying stuff.
Good for shares.
Oh, thanks.
Are you using, AI